let's start from the beginning that before I have a... Well, anyway, I wanted to thank you, all of you, for, for being understanding with the process of IGIS. I don't know, Claudia, you know already, but we decided to stop the association of IGIS. And so everybody has been very helpful with the process and understanding. We will have the website continuously and at least for 2 years. But if you guys want to maintain it longer than that, we will have to find somebody that will take over. And I will also make sure that the contents is shared with you guys, because maybe you want to use the content for some reason. And that's, for my GIS, I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for all these years collaborating together. And I wish that, well, you have IGTC, and I wish that it can be still, a good platform for you to keep defending MSG and all the legal issues with Mercosur, and then maybe other issues together with all America. And so let me, you know Mihoka for a long time. She has been our treasurer for IGs and also the CEO of the Australian Glutamate Association. And so today she would like to share with you her experience over all these years. And I'm sure that after that we will have a very good session of questions and exchanges and so on. So here, Mihoka-san, you can just go ahead.
Okay. I suppose good morning to everyone there. I'm Mihoka Townsley. I've been with the Australian Glutamate Information Service since 1992. And before then, I was with actually Ajinomoto since 1982. So I've been for quite a long time. Now I am going through a very brief history and then the more details later on. So very historical moment started in 1989. Sydney Morning Herald, one of the biggest metro newspaper, had a headline showing teenage girl dies with asthma attack after Chinese meal contained MSG. So yeah, this is a shocking sort of someone died with MSG. So we couldn't waste the time. We had to contact Ajinomoto head office, and we had the IGTC code, and we had to establish with the PR company called the Bason Master. So we had a contract with 10 years, and within 10 years we had many activities and actions, the things that happened. So such as we had activities with Sydney, we still had a Sydney office, and David Panashak was Asia's consultant to regulatory affairs, and also we had a dietitian, Jane Barnes. She did MSG education, took classes in TAFE colleges, and also monitoring for media, TV, radio, all the publishing in Australia wide and in New Zealand, and also media communication and MSG leaflet dissemination. And 10 years time, so Jane Byrne had all this jobs finished, and sorry, not Jane Burns, Bass Master I finished after 10 years. I finished. That was in 1999. And the year after, 2000, which is the big sort of surprising, unbelievable news came in. Actually, Bob Carr, who was New South Wales State Premier, And he has a wife was very anti-MSG, and she eats Asian food as long as as soon as she eats, she gets a reaction. So Bob Carr decided to take a big sort of a action onto a government. So he actually put up a proposal on MSG regulation about a restaurant food, not the food product. So a little bit, nobody could understand. He just talked about MSG in the restaurant food and then takeaway food. So what he was doing, he gazetted this proposal in the New South Wales government. And when actually one of Chinese member of parliament, Dr. Peter Wong, he found out about this proposal, and he couldn't believe how Bob Carr was a racist discrimination, only just against Asian food. And so we had to have a meeting with the Dr. Wong for many times to try to get through. And also we had collaboration with the IGTC, Umami Information Center people there, and also Dr. Tarasov. We called into Parliament House to give MSc lecture to a member of Parliament. So what he was doing, we worked with Dr. Wong. He really trying to work hard and trying to get the number of voting to actually adopt this proposal. So with the collaboration with the IGTC, they had actually people came into Parliament House, give a lecture, and also we had a Dr. Tarasov who had an MSc study at the New South Wales, University of Western Sydney. He actually came into Parliament House to give an MSc lecture to the member of Parliament there as well. So a very last day for the voting, and the Bob Carr Premier wasn't even in the Parliament House. So the proposal was Gazette was dismissed. So which was a good thing. And since then, we walked on to Jamban, had many lectures, got through the TAFE student. And goes through, what's the next one? Right, so this is actually Jane Barnes completed her lectures and TAFE colleges. So this is the main sort of story I was sort of going to talk about, but also go back to actually 1989 when actually this happened. When the girls at this came along, New South Wales Health Department, they actually decided to do their own conduct, the survey on MSG, because this girl died with they believed it was MSG. Her mother actually ran into health department in New South Wales, and they're trying to blame MSG, and they're trying to stop the use of MSG. So the state government themselves, they had to do a survey. And but as a result, a report came out as the Chinese food and the Italian food, what they actually surveyed. And the Italian food contained more MSG than in Chinese food, which people were quite surprised. And something they get into what was the MSG, because the Italian food has not the contained MSG, but the natural glutamate in tomato, cheese, all the Italian ingredients. And after that, we have 1990, the one this came along again, teenage boy in Tasmania died with a peanut satay sauce, contained MSG, they believed. And then 2 years after, another death with an elderly lady who had a Chinese seafood, they believed because it contained MSG. So we had a few deaths sort of get going, but the Urua had to do something. And with the IGTC collaboration, we had the Dr. Tarasov and Dr. Kelly at University of Western Sydney. They had MSG study. And also we had a taste test panel with CSIRO, which is Commonwealth Science and Industrial Research Organization. So to do this taste test panel, we had media and the TAFE teachers and had a quite good successful understanding on MSG. And then 93, because we're talking about so much on the MSG issue and then the publishing, and all of a sudden the food industry got so much panic and then started putting negative claims. So they believe that that's not a good idea. So the biggest marketing sort of target was showing no MSG, no added MSG, or even MSG free on their product. And we had to go through with the food industry organization to have a big talk, keep trying to get their support, go through the education on food manufacturers. And then a year after, finally, we had a joint sort of publishing proposal with the food National Food Authority, which is government, and also a Grocery Manufacturers Association, which is a manufacturers group there. They joint sort of organized to bring out MSC statement. In the meantime, we had David Panashak. He was a Aegis consultant. He visited every state in Australia's health department to try to pass right message on MSG safety and efficacy. And also Jane Barnes continues lectures on MSG and umami at the TAFE colleges in New South Wales. And then eventually Australian Food Council came up to do some making the food code of conduct. What sort of with the negative claims on the food product. Their statement said they had to say no MSG or glutamate added, although free from glutamate may be naturally present, which just because you can't say no MSG, but natural glutamate may contain. But because it's such a long sentence, they had to state on the food product. It's not many follow this actual rule. Only one or two we could actually spot that actually the back of a package they had on. And a year after, we had the conference at the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney, which is the Dr. Lovely, who was a very anti-MSG. He's with the allergy unit. So took this opportunity. We sent a nutritionist, Jane Burns. She had a presentation on MSG safety. And also we had Dr. Rosemary Wood, who studied MSG and asthma in Melbourne, Victoria, supported by IGTC. And they had a wonderful presentation, which brings a little bit more neutral position. And then while we are having so much negative claims, agency decided to send a proposal to actually Canberra, Australia, New Zealand Food Standard Authority, and trying to get the big support from food industry support as well. In the meantime, they're trying to distribute all the possible leaflet, brochures, MSG statement. We're trying to distribute and disseminate it. And Jane Barnes still continuously lecture on MSG and umami at the TAFE colleges. And then came to 2000. We opened MSG website, and then at the same time, actually, IGES was established in 2000 as well. So this was the very starting year we had the first IGES meeting in Korea. And hold on, oops. One thing. Right, so we had a major event. After once sort of the government started showing what MSG is and the food industry trying to support somewhere, but then we decided to get a chance to take into some sort of an event. So we had the 2007, the big food tasting Australia in Adelaide. There was in South Australia, and having Ninomiya-san. She had umami talk, and a chef from London, and they had demonstration of the dashi and the umami. And 2009, we had the Sydney International Food Festival, which again, we had the Ninomiya-san and also Chef Murata from Tokyo, and he had a demonstration on umami, and also they had some tasting as well. And in 2012, they had the International Congress at Dietetic Sydney, and the AGES supported for this event, and Anna-san and also all the delegate from Ajinomoto. And that was a successful demonstration with Chef Noda, had another taste panel for the dashi tasting. And then after that, it's sort of we've been having the many events. Eventually, they are sort of quite settled down, and then continuous more monitoring on the media, and also MSC negative claims on food products. And finally, after a long time, 2017, and our consultant David Panashek completely terminated. And they keep going until still keep monitoring media and how the situation changed into from MSG talk to actually umami talk. So most of the monitoring articles were talking about umami in the cooking, and the umami was a taste, just the expression of a word, taste the food equal to umami. So been used a lot, often used by chefs and the food writers. So after all, we actually came to beautiful, successful, yes, a long journey to come out to this, accomplishment. But in the meantime, when actually had New South Wales, we had Bob Carr as a premier put a gazette up for the MSC regulation. There was so it is a history, we can't take it down, even dismissed, but as a history, it's in the record, it's in file. But this MSC regulation, they're talking about only MSC usage in restaurant food and the takeaway food, not in the processed manufactured food. So nobody could believe what he was about, and just we just couldn't take around. But luckily, very, very fortunate, we had the one MP. He was a Chinese, and he was so angry he had to fight through. So this is the 4 pages of a regulation proposal. But yeah, we had IGTC, the Ajinomoto. We had many people came to New South Wales and also Canberra as a federal government. They're trying to input MSG safety and efficacy. This page is actually when the Gazette was dismissed in the parliament. So while we're doing this, I mentioned Dr. Peter Wong. He was a one-man party, unity party, but he couldn't ignore this Bob Carr, the premier's proposal, because such a targeted to Asian food and Asian people. So to win the number of voting, what he did, this premier's taste enhancer, he made a big poster, and also the picture showing actually Ajinomoto, that the MSG bottle. But I had the one from Peter Wong. He actually asked a Chinese company to make some bottle like this, jars showing Premier's taste enhancer. And he stuck these posters on the wall and these little bottles in the Parliament House are displayed. And when the final voting day came, the Premier Bob Carr wasn't even in the Premier at the Parliament House. He was absent. So with the anonymous number of voting, then the proposal of Gazette was dismissed, which is a wonderful result. And we had to do this job. And yes. And this is what with Peter Wong is on this picture. On the left one, it's actually on the right-hand side, other side from me. This is Peter Wong. He was MP in the parliament. So he told us we had to do some education to actually Asian people, because many Asian people don't know what the MSG is, but they use at home. And the Western people are trying to tell them not to use it because they're poison. So this is a night we had the 5 ethnic communities, Asian community members, and they had the Chinese, Thai, Vietnamese, Indonesian, Korean community people. So they call MSc Education Launch Night. And the one we're holding is a big size of a poster, how to use MSc in the restaurant kitchen. So we distributed to restaurant and the restaurant kitchen chefs. And also brochures we actually printed in 5 languages, sent out to all the restaurants and actually the ethnic communities as well. Excuse me. And this is the posters we distributed the 3 different restaurants, Chinese and Thai and Vietnamese, and New South Wales and Victorian restaurants. And as soon as we had this launch night, we had a wonderful success on the media. We had quite a few Chinese. We had this is another Chinese newspaper and a Thai newspaper. That's the Indonesian. Excuse me. So they had beautiful ethnic community and the media. They worked so well, and it was very successful. Now, this is a negative claims on supermarket food product. I've been doing since the start to 2020, but you can see the most sort of extreme one is the blue one on top, more than 90% of the product. This is a food product. When it started, almost every canned food had a negative claims on it. But after that, actually, almost if I say about 10%, it was very low. So they are still carrying negative claims. It's just the food industries, the little marketing sort of a little tactic. They just have to use, that's what I was told. And then one of this actually manufacturers negative claims improvement. I just have to bring up a Kikkoman because I was quite disappointed when a Japanese company do this negative claims on Kikkoman soy sauce. But after one of this education going through, and fortunately Kikkoman removed negative claims, which is a great thing. And this is a textbook nutritionist Jane Brown used in a TAFE lectures. So reasonable textbook, but ages inserted is a pages, information pages, plus actual worksheets. So when she goes, she works in a class and they work together. And they were very, very successful. And when the students understand what their mission is, and this is carrying a future food industry side and a kitchen. So we had thanks to Jane Brown, did many lectures go through the colleges. And then we're talking about that monitoring the newspaper, TV, radio. So start from 1989 to 21. The one I can tell you is actually a third one. It's a gray color on orange one is a total one, but a gray color one is a very high to start with. But if you look at a 1921, you won't see actually gray color anymore. This is a negative claim, negative articles. So nowadays we actually article, we don't see publishing about MSG. Most of it, they're about umami and taste and cooking using umami ingredients. And this is a brief trend, how they work through the years, starting with asthma crisis. And we had a very, very deep IGTC intervention. And the time we had a few years with the New South Wales Premier anti-MSG time, and then eventually ages heavy lobby activities, and then a few events in the end. And yeah, so it come down to almost peacetime. So this is one of a few events we had. South Australia, we had Tasting Australia in Adelaide, South Australia. We had a Ninomiya-san and chef from London. Same Ninomiya-san talk about umami, and then chef demonstrated about the dashi and the umami as well. And then we did a taste testing. And then 2 years after, we had the World Showcase, another international food festival. We had Ninomiya-san for the umami talk, and we had Chef Murata from Tokyo. He had a demonstration on the umami and a taste test, and it was a great successful event. So here's Ninomiya-san and Murata-san there with other chefs. And she was in discussion time at the front. So great conversation with it. And this is a two very pro MSG chefs in Sydney. Of course, you know David Chan, he's from America, but he had a restaurant in Sydney as well. And International Food and Wine Festival, he had some umami talk. And also other guy called Dan Hon, he's a Vietnamese chef in Sydney, and he's very, very pro MSG and the umami talk. And he created the name of restaurant called Miss G. So if you put together, it's MSG. And he demonstrated umami. And this is Dan Hon created restaurant. Front of the restaurant has got neon showing Miss G, so MSG. And on the wall inside, it's got 621 neons shining there. 621 is MSG number. And also walls everywhere, they have MSG, big sort of tags stuck onto the wall everywhere. So he's trying to tell people that they come to his restaurant, and he said it doesn't necessarily he use MSG, but MSG, nothing wrong. This all contained in the food. So he really attracted, I've been quite a few times to his restaurant. It's a great food. And my favorite, actually, newspaper article, this is a Dan Hon. he was in a Sydney Morning Herald. He loves the kombu to make a dashi. So he's a very, very pro, and he knows how to tell people what's the umami coming from. And then this a few MSU statement. This is a fact sheet published by Australian Food Grocery Council, which is Food Manufacturers Council. And then MSU statement by New South Wales State Food Authority. They're different from the government. It's the state government. And then also in Canberra, as the Australian food standard, Australian New South Wales food standard. There's a page they call MSU in Food, and also you can actually find out the full many pages for MSU technical report, which is almost, I think, the pages and pages from IGTC beautiful report and MSU safety matter and efficacy there you can read about. Then here's some pictures, old pictures. I don't know if anybody maybe recognize the one in San Francisco, other one, what was the other one?
The other one is actually from IGSA.
Oh, okay. That's
But I
San
don't
Paulo.
remember the year. Yeah, it's
Okay.
one of the.
That's
maybe
the first.
one.
That's the first
Yeah,
San
maybe
Paulo. Or second.
maybe the one that we had in 2018 after the umami.
Oh, okay. So that's the second one.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, the left side. And
Okay.
the right side is the San Francisco one.
San Francisco, yeah. And then down there you can see Korean flag there. That was the very first IGIS annual meeting held in Seoul, Korea. That was a nice memorial, yes.
This
And
is the
then
one
more
in the
pictures.
Philippines. Yeah.
Philippines, yes, they had I think a Philippine had quite a big one. Because I remember
2010.
Dr. Everett.
Yes.
Andrew Everett was, I think, retiring, so that was the very last one he was there, and yes, I had to really thank Dr. Everett because he came to Australia a few times. He had to run around to state government. He had the Canberra. He really had to help a lot. Yes.
And here we have Claudio, and I don't know if somebody else was from IXA. I don't recognize. Yeah. Yeah, Claudio here. Dr. Felix. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The American team TGA. And this is our colleagues from the Philippines. They are all retired.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, nice memory. Yes.
Yeah, we went shopping.
Yes. Yes, beautiful. Yes, food.
Yeah, this is some pictures we took. I went to visit Mihoka in 2020, just when COVID started. And you can see the Health Star rating. I don't know in Brazil if you have a profiling system like this one, but in Australia they have the stars to tell you if it's healthy. So 3.5.
It's a nutritional star or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. So if you have more than 3.5, it's healthy. But this one is not very healthy. But the problem is here, you see, free from added MSG. Here also like a no MSG added. But we pick up only the ones that said that, right? So it's not that everything has it. But I also find it interesting to say no added MSG.
Yeah, they are still there. Yeah. I don't think we could sort of remove it completely. Yeah.
Not completely, yeah. Sure.
But only I think very fortunately nowadays, even I don't see food magazine advertising. We don't use MSG or no, the negative labeling there, but we don't hear them, so which is I think good thing just to keep the peace or whoever people choice what do you want to have. Yeah. So this is my accomplishment and the long journey mission of MSG.
Yeah, so you're welcome to make any. Yes, just
Yeah, if you have any questions.
You're welcome to do any questions.
Well, you never heard about Australia?
Is it the first time you hear about Australia?
In details, yes, for me it's the first time.
Okay.
Mihoka, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation.
Thank
Currently, the situation in Australia is allowed to put, for example, no MSG or no added MSG. Is possible to use this disclaimer or not?
Or original, actually, so even there is a food of a code of conduct that you can have no added MSG, but they have to state that it may contain natural glutamate. No added MSG, but it may contain natural glutamate occurring. So there is some actual product do actually state that long sentence.
But it's still valid, it.
Yeah.
In Brazil, fortunately, it's not allowed to use this claim.
Not allowed to.
No,
Yeah.
no added MSG or no MSG.
Okay.
It's not allowed fortunately,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Time to time, you have to fight with big companies such as Unilever or Nestle. They put on the label, no.
Yeah.
Recently, we have Unilever included, but they decide to take out this information from the label.
Okay.
That's nice.
So I'm not too sure when was we received a copy of food regulation in Canada. Canada was the same. They're not allowed to have negative claims anymore. So we're trying to take that Canada proposal out, the regulation, to Canberra, but didn't work. Our consultant trying to sort of argue with them, but they nowadays even the regulation controlling is not even under food regulation with the government anymore. The actually negative claims argument we have to go through with the ACCC, which is Australian Consumers Competition Commission. So very different area. And I was reading something about ACCC. They don't even discuss about food additives because they believe nothing to do with them. But the government says actually the responsibility was the ACCC. So that was a very last few years ago when the David Panashak went to ACCC and they didn't want to even know about the negative claims. So like throwing ball each other from government to another section, but we just hope that industry was sort of quiet enough if they want to play with the negative claims just because of marketing reason. It's only just a marketing tactic because they want to sell. As long as if you say no added MSG, people think that that's okay then, and then they're trying to buy. But this won't stop anywhere, I don't think. Yeah.
Regarding the people in general, their perception is that MSG is bad or not, or more neutral? Not?
I think very neutral. I didn't show anything there in the beginning because of such a sort of a blame the Chinese food was MSG, and the Asian restaurant, many of them, their menu and advertising, they always had to say we don't use MSG in our kitchen. There was a big advertising, but nowadays we don't see any even that advertising either. I used to monitor from newspaper, just advertising Chinese restaurant. They say we don't use MSG on newspaper, but we haven't monitored for a long time about the restaurant who someone talks about MSG. That means I think people are not worried about. There is always a negative I mean, we don't like food industry, so use that, but there's nowhere we could stop. But at least the Asian food, the restaurant, but also I think as Australia is a multicultural country, and the people love Asian food, so that's why we had to educate Thai, Vietnamese, Korean, these people there, because they have to know what MSG is, so people can tell Australian people what you're eating. And also nowadays, the celebrity chefs and the food writer talk about umami and what they use. And if they say, oh, because you use a cheese and the mushroom, put some umami in. This is a umami, it's a mushroom. So people slowly changing where the tasty food come from. So not necessarily you have to use MSG, that's fine. If you don't use MSG, but same a natural ingredient as a glutamate in the natural ingredients. So I think that's somewhere people do more understanding nowadays. Yeah. But even I was always told that the people never believe the Japanese people use MSG. I said, we do use MSG. They somehow came from always MSG was Chinese. But no, Japanese always use. I mean, you know, there's actually a company, actually they started making MSG. That's why I started. And yeah, so often people don't know where they come from and how you find them. And then naturally, because of white powder, everybody thinks it looks like a chemical.
Yeah.
And they always, I think in the Japanese too, I think many years ago, they had actually chemical additive, but wasn't chemical. It's a natural ingredient. Just where the processing stage, they come white powder. So just unfortunate, they cut off it.
Yeah, the color does not help too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mirhak.
Thank you.
Hi,
Yes,
Mariana. Do you have any comment, Mariana?
Yes, thank you, Mihoka, for your presentation. It was
Thank
very
you.
nice to
Finally, I'll
see.
meet you. Because I just always
Yes, that's
remember the
true.
name. We sort of exchanging emails, but
Emails. Yes, we
we have
didn't
no
met
meeting
before.
anymore. So
Yes,
yes,
yes. So it was very nice to see your journey and to see that we faced almost the same problems
mm,
here
yeah,
too. So it's nice to do this, to
yes,
have this
yes,
benchmark
yeah,
and to see that we are not alone in
yes. That's right.
MSB
That's what we have to feel.
problem.
Us now, we're not alone. Yes,
Yes, thank
and
you
it's
so
not easy.
much.
You can just solve a problem simply either. It's
Yes,
the long time. And
yes,
just repeating the education, still disseminating leaflet, and yeah.
yes. So thank you so much, and my best wishes
Thank
for
you.
you. Thank you for
Thank
everything.
you for your support always. Yeah,
Mm.
I've been all good.
Yeah, so thank you for the comments. I actually, if you guys could, Oliver, if you activate your camera, I can do a picture of the screen and just keep it as a memory of today's. I probably can stop. Thank you. Just a second. I'm going to stop the recording because, yes. And
Yeah.
now